I want to bring in Monica Alba, our White House correspondent, who's been monitoring it all. And let's start with the news of the executive order itself, Monica, because it's significant, basically overhauling the federal recommendations, the guidelines now for childhood vaccine schedules. And this is something that the president has really been previewing since almost his first day in the second term, Mon.
Exactly, Hallie. This is something that the president has also tried to take action on before. There have been other executive orders. There have been other kind of directives to his top cabinet officials, including the HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to look into this. But a lot of that had been met with legal challenges. And there are many questions about what the president signed today in terms of how that is going to be met. But this does, in effect, upend the childhood vaccine schedule, and it comes from President Trump and several others in this event just now, making claims without evidence, continuing to link autism potentially with childhood vaccines. That, again, there is no scientific evidence to connect those two things. And in this executive order, in the text of it, there isn't anything about autism specifically, and the president was asked about that, and he did say that they are still looking into that. This is something that he's sort of just putting out there again as a claim without any backing of scientific evidence, but it is sort of the undercurrent to why the president is continuing to do this and to bring up this issue. And what it essentially does, Hallie, is that it would propose to limit the number of vaccines that children get, and that certain diseases that they get vaccines for would be recommended for all kids of all ages. But then there would be a group of other vaccines that would really be based on a conversation between a child's parents and a child's doctor. And then there is another even subset and group of vaccines that would potentially only be recommended, again, if there are other discussions between the child and the child's family and the doctors. But something that's really significant here, Hallie, that the president has been talking about wanting to propose and do for a while is separate out what's called the MMR vaccine. And that's the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine that right now is given in multiple doses, but in one shot for those three diseases. And the president and Secretary Kennedy are arguing that those should be taken apart as individual shots. And so what they're saying is that children, their parents should take them for more appointments, to go to the doctor more often, but to get the shots in distinct visits instead of combined in some cases, as the vaccine schedule has been laid out for decades. But again, the important thing to point out here, Hallie, is that this is something that still could face some legal challenges. And we do know that essentially the president is asking his HHS secretary to take 90 days to continue to look into this, to produce a report that could affect some additional funding for vaccine research, to take a look at this, which, if you look at the calendar, is interesting and notable because that would put it basically at the week of the midterms. And this is, of course, a very hot political issue for parents and people who are looking at this very closely. Hallie.
Monica Alba, I'm going to ask you to stay with us. I want to bring in Dr. Akshay Syal now, our NBC News medical reporter. Okay, Dr. Akshay, some questions for you here. A bit of a reality check, and then getting into the, let's call it the pragmatics for parents of what they should know about this. Let's start with the reality check. You heard Monica talk about no scientific evidence to show that there is a link between these childhood vaccines, autism. You heard the president call the MMR vaccine lethal. That is one that has been proven safe and effective, correct?
Correct, Hallie, and we have decades of evidence sort of suggesting the opposite to what they were saying today. And, you know, the American Academy of Pediatrics, Hallie, has been pretty vocal against the Secretary Kennedy's, proposed vaccine changes back in January when they announced the new CDC changes. And they are planning a briefing here later this afternoon in response to the executive order. So we will hear what they have to say. But your point on pragmatism is a great one, Hallie. And that's, as a physician, one thing I worry about when they break up the vaccines, they're announcing a potential, MMR breakdown of the vaccines into individual shots, as well as having patients, have to come back for multiple vaccines at separate appointments. It's hard to get to doctor's appointments. People have to take time off of work. They have to find a way to get their children to the appointments. They have to get their children to go see a doctor, which, kids tend to not like to do. So all these things could reduce vaccine rates when, you and I have talked at length this year about the measles resurgence. And, if we talk about making vaccines harder to get, what is that going to mean for cases going forward? A lot of questions still remain, but we are anxiously awaiting the American Academy of Pediatrics response. response, Hallie.
If these recommendations do move forward, Dr. Akshay, does it become mandatory for parents? Must they follow them? Must pediatricians follow them? Or is there still some level of discretion for individual families?
Well, to be honest, Hallie, it's become a bit of a mess lately with, different states providing their own vaccine recommendations. The American Academy of Pediatrics, sticking to the 18 vaccines, the CDC reducing it down to 11 earlier this year. So we will see, how states and how different regulatory agencies decide to proceed. But as a physician, it just makes it much, much harder as all these different states are asynchronous. Patients are going to have a lot of questions. Parents are going to have a lot of questions. And we as doctors need a good place to go to as a resource, Hallie.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.